Rudolph Giuliani can be said to have achieved what many thought was not possible in a place that many were convinced had seen its best days. It was a city of menace and mayhem, of fear and loathing, of lawlessness and misery.
In 1981, Rudy Giuliani becomes the youngest Associate Attorney General in the history of the country. He's 36 when he's named, and really running the entire criminal justice apparatus of the United States government.
I have some good news for you. A major initiative that I believe can mark a turning point in the battle against crime. As all of you know, crime today is an American epidemic.
The early 80s was a time period where the war on crime and the war on drugs was as hot as ever, and there was some good reason. I mean, we were in a crack epidemic in this country, in this city.
Got a good amount of rock on.
And Congress became totally compliant to a national administration screaming law and order. There was the most profound change in power in our federal criminal justice system, because it has moved power from the judges to the prosecutors in ways that are frightening. And years later, Giuliani would embrace those powers himself as the United States Attorney.
At that time, Rudy Giuliani had the brief relating to immigration. And in 1981, the Reagan administration elected to take a new tough policy toward the unauthorized arrival of Haitian boat people. And instead of focusing on the human rights question, it became an immigration issue, a symbol almost of a broader question of loss of control over the borders. And that involved a high seas interception and return policy. And that was a machine that returned literally tens of thousands without any inquiry into any claim for asylum that they might have. And Rudy Giuliani was the key and principal implementer of a new direction on immigration control.
We intend to continue our policy of firm and fair enforcement of the immigration laws, and to pursue both interdiction and detention to the full extent permitted by law in order to maintain control of our borders.
Haiti was a human rights disaster in many ways. It was a highly repressive and authoritarian society controlled by the dictator Baby Doc Duvalier. You certainly had extrajudicial killings, torture, the legacy of the Tonton Macoute. Political opponents suffered horribly in Haiti at this time. And certainly one manifestation was the continuing outflow of Haitian asylum seekers and the unwanted arrival in South Florida. Somewhat notoriously, there would be bodies on the beach.
We have enough naval vessels that they should be intercepting and sending these people back.
It's very difficult for us to go back again to Haiti with those men with their weapons. You know, they will try to kill us again. They will try to kill us.
The policies were pitiless. They were apprehended and concentrated at Camp Crome in abysmal conditions of detention for months and years. We created a detention system only for Haitian boat people.
When all of these civil rights groups challenged the detention policies, Giuliani goes to Haiti, he meets with Duvalier, he really goes to prepare himself as a witness in an attempt to defend these detention policies. And then he's in federal court. He goes on the witness stand and testifies about conversations that really never occurred with all sorts of officials in Haiti to try to make the argument that there is no political repression in Haiti. Under oath, he is completely deceptive. He is in a desperate moment because he has now been essentially commissioned as the Reagan administration point man to stop the Haitian influx.
In other words, they say they're political refugees. You say they're economic refugees.
They say they're refugees.
Right.
The reports of the State Department from under two administrations, the papal nuncio in Haiti, who I met with 4 weeks ago, who was a critic of the regime in Haiti, many others say that in large part their claim of fleeing political persecution is not a correct one.
The very foundations of broken windows theory, which is that disorder invites crime, have no standing in social science. There is not one shred of evidence. This is a narrative that they were able to sell and sell very aggressively through the forcefulness of Giuliani's personality, through a compliant press, through the absence of any contrary data.
New York's declines last year were 3 to 6 times the national average. It's also now America's safest large city and helping really the rest of the country reduce crime.
In fact, homicides went down and crime went down generally in virtually every city in the country under a wide variety of policing regimes. New York had its own policing theory and its own particularized style. Other cities did things completely differently.
There's no question but the crime is down. The only real question is, has crime declined in the Giuliani era at a far more significant rate than in other major municipalities because it's declined across the country? And I think the way some crimes were reported, of shifting them out of FBI categories so that they wouldn't count, resulted in a distorted picture where it appeared that crime was declining faster in New York City than it was in other major cities. It was probably declining at roughly the same rate. No magic here.
If you don't think I've reduced crime, you got to be living in some other city. But, you know, some people are living in some other city.
But it's in the bloodstream of New Yorkers. It apparently is now even in the bloodstream of Americans, this mythology that Rudy Giuliani single-handedly, super cops, conquered crime in New York City. Rudy gets all the credit. And then when Time magazine did their big cover story and they had Bill Bratton on the cover, it actually cost him his job.
I've just met with the mayor this morning and have given to him my letter of resignation as the police commissioner for the city of New York. Resignation.
He does rule by intimidation, by fear. That's well known, and he delights to be known as a tough guy.
Giuliani's reputation as a strong mayor is mainly due to his uncompromising approach to policing. So-called zero tolerance has fascinated British politicians.
At least we're doing some things that people all over the world think are worthy of imitation.
In New York, the crime rate's been falling, and Australian politicians are taking notice. Getting tough on crime, zero tolerance.
Labour's law and order policy has got tougher, with a call for police action against beggars, drunks, graffiti scrawlers and aggressive car windscreen washers. In his words, to reclaim the street for the law-abiding citizen.
What's most interesting about the broken windows theory and broken windows policing is how it became so popular, right, in the public imagination. It's this idea of a beautification program, you know, aesthetic policing. Because I think the rhetorical punch here really is the idea that we're making New York more orderly, right? I mean, who can be against that? And what the theory was able to do, really, was transform something that was viewed as a public nuisance into something that was viewed as a positive harm. So all of a sudden, this panhandler on the street is not just, you know, a pain in the neck. Turns out that actually it's because of the panhandler that we've got such high rates of crime. But it's an illusion to think that it's orderliness and order maintenance that has reduced crime in New York City.
What's the lesson for the other great cities of the world?
To manage a police department, to reduce crime, to concentrate on quality of life issues, to do all the things that were so controversial a year ago, a year and a half ago, when I first came into office. Do those, and you're going to see significant decline.
Brutally tough on criminals, if need be?
Well, there's no question that you have to be, but part of this is to prevent crime in the first place.
Police brutality in New York City appears to be a persistent, widespread, and long-standing problem.
And this 1996 Amnesty report, what we found was an increasing number of both complaints, which were lodged with the Civilian Complaints Review Board, and a disproportionate number of people of color who alleged, at least, that they were victims of police brutality. I think it would be fair to say the police commissioner was disdainful of the report.
It's a selectively anecdotal report, which is not scientific in any way.
Manhattan, New York County, has the most unequal distribution of income of any county in the United States. So we have an almost third world social structure in New York City from that sense, this proximity of rich and poor. We've got one of the richest and one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country, almost right next to each other. The great boom has certainly done great things for the residents of Fifth Avenue, but it's done nothing for the residents of East Harlem.
A lot of people are getting left behind out of this thing. Because essentially, despite the economic boom in the city of New York, and it's been extraordinary, I think we've seen the tax revenue rates, that it doesn't seem to have appreciably moved the poverty rate in the city of New York. I mean, nearly 25% of the city's population living with incomes that basically make it difficult for them to eat, find housing and clothing for their kids. It is just not producing the amount of jobs necessary to deal with this enormous pent-up demand for low-wage and low-skilled work. You could do vastly better at improving the outcome for low-wage workers so we don't have people who end up without their welfare benefits with no visible means of support.
As the mayor of New York City, I decided to say to everybody on welfare who was able-bodied, if you want to continue to get welfare, you're going to have to work. And I've reduced the welfare rolls in New York City the most ever in the history of the city. So I know something about workfare. We've got 35,000 people right now working for the city of New York in exchange for a welfare check.
A tremendous amount of cynicism had built up in the late 80s and early 90s. I think that people felt that it just wasn't working anymore, that the numbers of homeless on the streets were astronomical. People felt that they couldn't walk without getting hassled or hit up for change. And so here you have New Yorkers and Americans whose wages had stagnated. Now both parents have to work. Everybody's exhausted, and there's not a whole lot left over at the end of the day for people to really be thinking these problems through. And so the time was right for opportunists to step in and say, the reason that it's not working is that you and I get up every morning and go to work, and the other people that are fleecing us, the welfare dependents, are making a different choice. And that we just need to cut these people off and seriously retool that whole culture of dependency.
So they started the workfare program, which was really a program in many ways designed to force people off the rolls, not to prepare them for anything, to demand that they work in meaningless, menial labor, and then sanction them if they missed a half a day. Sanction them in such a way as they could knock them off of welfare. And this happened to tens of thousands of people.
This program was never meant to actually give people jobs.
It wasn't designed.
It was meant to move people off the welfare system. If it was meant to actually give people jobs, then you would have job training. And we're not being prepared for anything more than what put us on welfare in the first place. They have a few Mickey Mouse programs that put almost nobody to work, train almost no one.
I've been here 2 months, so these guys been here, some of them been here 3 years.
Imagine how I feel.
4 years.
I've been here 4 years. You think I'm lazy?
No.
Thing is, you come on welfare because you've been sick, or because you lost your apartment, or your ability to function for yourself, or you didn't have skills, and then you do 2 years, 5 years, 10 years on this program, and when you get dumped off, you're in exactly the same position that put you on in the first place. So of what value is this? How does this benefit anybody, including the city?
I ain't nobody got a job. I've been there 8 months. In McCarran Park, Nancy, chief of operations, said that they haven't hired no one since 91. Why? Because we have Webs since 91. That's why. We're taking their place. It's free labor. Other people work for free. If I could have Bernard here wash my shoes all day, take care of me, hey, why should I hire someone when he could do it for free? That's right. That's just like...
I know one guy right now he leaves his house like he's going to job, but he be going shoplifting. And they have to do it because they have to pay his rent. Been in jail 3 times.
It feel real messed up, man, real bad.
We walking out a dead-end street.
No future in this. We want to grab the brass spring of life, too. We want to go home to my house, have my car, have my children, be happy, get a paycheck, maybe.
Need work, man. Real jobs. Real jobs. Not this web.
Now, Stanley Hill, the municipal union leader who had originally backed the mayor's plan, now says workfare is like slavery because it doesn't lead to permanent jobs. What do you say to Stanley Hill?
Well, you and I are sitting here, and we both put in a long day today. Are we slaves? I would say that everybody has an obligation to go to work, and in fact, it's work that sets you free.
Our workfare program recognizes the value and the potential of individual human beings. It replaces the kind of sense of dependency with a real concept of the social contract.
It would seem that they'd really taken the moral high ground, saying, we're doing the right thing, we're helping people. And basically, the majority of Americans or New Yorkers believe that. But if you ask the question another way, say, is it right to make that person work without a wage? Is that right? Is that just? Is it right to make that person work with no opportunity of employment in the job that they're doing? And I think that when you talk to working people, if you explain to them that people in the workfare program are being forced to work, and they're working side by side with city workers, and their income level is almost 30% below the federal poverty line, is that right? I tell you that most people will say it's not right. That's not okay with them.
Rudy Giuliani, WABC. Injustice of 16, 17, 18, 24, this is a campaign. Everybody get down to police plaza and get arrested. And fill up the jail. Stop police brutality.
You have no recourse but to take to the streets when you're not being heard. So we had to be arrested because it's the only way we can get our message out. That first week, there were only 5 or 6 every day. And now it's over 800 arrested. So this is what's happened. This is the 14th day of arrest, so it's a great thing.
You will be arrested.
These are people that you do not ordinarily see at the barricade. It's not a publicity stunt. It was a moral imperative.
This has gotten to the point of the absurd. The arresting, I mean, it's getting silly, actually.
The increase in the number of people arrested to now almost 200 a day was sparked by Giuliani's remark that this is silly.
This is a community that is outraged, white and black. A community that is outraged by this.
And then September 11th happened, and suddenly he had a focus. He was America's hero, magically almost. And where it goes from here is anybody's guess.
Leyes de tolerancia cero al delito y la droga. Porque para luchar contra la inseguridad no hay soluciones mágicas, pero hay soluciones. A base de prevención, tecnología y descentralización. 1. Crear la Agencia Federal de Investigación Criminal para delitos de alta complejidad. Narcotráfico, lavado de dinero, tráfico de armas, trata de personas, redes de pornografía infantil, terrorismo y corrupción. 2. Defender el espacio aéreo en la lucha contra el narcotráfico. En el marco de la declaración de emergencia en la provincia de Buenos Aires, proponemos incorporar tecnología para sumar seguridad. Y 911 inteligente que permite la localización precisa de la ubicación de la víctima que llama desde un celular al sistema de emergencias, además de convertir a todos los celulares en botones de pánico. Sistema detenido para detectar delincuentes a través de sus teléfonos celulares. Sistema buscador, cámaras con lectura automática de patentes para localizar vehículos robados. Mejorando la justicia, también mejoramos la seguridad. 1. ADN criminal. Creación de un banco de datos genético con muestras de ADN de imputados por delitos criminales. 2. Accesibilidad fiscal. Brindar a los fiscales rápido acceso de la información que consideren vital para sus investigaciones. 3. Creación de fiscalías especializadas en delitos rurales. Las zonas rurales también sufren el aumento de la inseguridad. Por eso, elaboramos un plan de lucha contra el delito en el campo y la creación de un grupo especial de prevención y apoyo rural. La lucha contra la inseguridad exige un urgente reordenamiento del servicio penitenciario de la provincia y la acción inmediata sobre un tema del que se habla mucho y se hace poco: la lucha contra la venta de droga en la provincia de Buenos Aires. Leyes de tolerancia cero al delito y la droga. Más leyes, más propuestas, más justicia, más seguridad. No dejemos que la inseguridad también nos robe el futuro.